The difference between advanced chess players and those who are lower rated is most clearly shown in the middle game. Strong chess players have learned certain laws that help them find the right ideas automatically, and those are the laws that I'll be sharing with you today. Law number 1, play with the initiative. This is so important, and it's really one of the dividing markers between those who are high rated and lower rated. Strong chess players are always looking to seize the initiative as soon as they can. Now, to illustrate this, we've got a position from Kasparov versus Garikov 1981. It's black to move here, and black plays b5. Now, this attacks the knight, but it also leaves the black knight on c6 undefended. And I think what black was probably expecting here was that white would take the knight on c6, after which black would take the knight on c4. Perhaps there's these additional captures, and we've got a pretty equal position. Maybe even black has gained something by getting their rook to the second rank from where it's quite strong. But Kasparov didn't go for this line, and instead he reacted to b5 with quite a surprising move, which gained the initiative. And that move was knight to d6. Now this puts the knight on a square where it can be captured, and that's what happened. But the point is that after rook takes c6, white is the one who's playing with the initiative now. The black queen is under attack and is therefore forced to move away. So white has gained the initiative. This is what I mean by this concept. You want to get your opponent reacting to the threats that you're creating. So the black queen went back, and then white takes over the open c file, the only open file on the board. We get a few more moves, and pretty soon we can see that the threats are coming thick and fast towards the black king. The f7 pawn is under attack now, so again, white is playing with the initiative. Black had to go passive to defend it. And now a very clever plan where white actually switched the angle of the attack. The f7 pawn is under attack again. And now black defended with g6, but this allowed a sacrifice, which eventually led white into a winning position. I won't show too much more of the rest of the game. You can check it out yourself, but you can see that white was continuing to play with threats here. Now, rook to h8 is a big threat. But it all began earlier. It all began after b5, where white had the choice of a couple of ways of playing. One of them gained the initiative, and one of them didn't. Well, of course, Kasparov, being one of the greatest chess players of all time, as well as one of the most aggressive chess players of all time, chose the move which gained the initiative. And we saw the consequences of that. Black's life was made very difficult. Law number 2, create concrete threats. Now, my favorite illustration of this concept comes in Motylev versus Polgar 2002. A concrete threat is one which is well calculated, all the way to the end, and which your opponent must respond to. So we're going to see how Polgar did this here. It started with bishop to g5. Now this creates the greatest threat of all in chess, that of checkmate. Queen to d2 mate is the threat. So what happens if white tries to take the bishop, first of all? Well then, black of course would take the white bishop with check, and due to this fork, white really has to try to hold on to the material with king to c1, and then another concrete threat, bishop to f5. Now, there's a couple of concrete threats here. One is to take the rook on b1, and another is queen to c2 checkmate. So, let's see, against the best defense, I think rook to b2 is the only try, but queen to f1 check, king to d2, queen takes f2 check, and once again, if white gives up the defense of the rook, then it's just hopeless with an extra piece. But if you go back, then it's checkmate this way. So let's see what happened in the game instead. After bishop to g5, the point of that is that white can't take this bishop. So white didn't. White instead tried to add defense to the bishop with the king. So we see another move here where the bishop is placed on a square where white can simply take it, but tactically white can't take it. This is what I mean by a concrete threat. If white does take the bishop, then there'll be this check, and now there's only two legal moves for the white king. If you go to f1, well then you'll lose the bishop with check, and then you'll lose the rook on the next move. And if you instead go to f3, then that's actually checkmate. So once again, we've got this situation where the bishop is available to be captured, but cannot be. So king to f1 was tried, but then bishop to f4. Once again, both of these bishops could be captured by the white queen, but tactically they can't be captured. If you take this one, then the same kind of pattern. King to g1, and then you lose the rook with check, and with an extra piece, it's just hopeless for white. If you'd like to learn more about these attacking patterns and how you can apply them in your own games, then I'd like to let you know that I work with ambitious adult improvers to improve their chess. If you'd like to explore working together, click the link in the description below. It's the pinned comment or at the top of the description, and we can see if working together will be a good fit for both of us. Law number 3. Always consider intermezzos. Now in chess, an intermezzo means an in-between move, and the easiest way to explain what that means is to illustrate it with an example. And to do that, I've got a position from one of my own games. This is De Graaf versus Rose 2024. I'm playing black, and this is a extremely sharp position which came from the King's Indian defense, and white's last move was knight to d2. White is desperately trying to stop me from playing f3. If I can play f3, then I'll have queen takes g4, and white's king is just going to be too exposed on these light squares. The bishop on h3 plays a powerful role here as well. But the thing is, I can actually play f3 anyway, even though it seems to be attacked 3 times by white and defended just twice by me. So let's see why that is. What happens if you take with the knight to start with? Well, the intermezzo, the in-between move, is to give this check. So by giving this check, I've actually added an extra attacker to the f3 square. That's the in-between move. So now, let's say white looks to block. Well, now I can capture the knight, and after these trades, it's showing that there's a checkmate in many moves here, but you don't even need to calculate that. You can just see that black has won material in that line. Also, the white queen is under attack. White is not going to last very long here. The same is true if after f3 you take with the bishop instead. In that case, you just take with the knight first, and then the same kind of thing. White is going to be down a decisive amount of material, or getting checkmated, and that's pretty much the end of the game. And it's all because you spot the in-between move, f3, followed by the crucial check on g4 with the queen. Law number 4. In general, avoid trading queens when your opponent has king safety trouble. This position comes from another one of my games. This is an online rapid game which I played in 2022, quite close to the start of my own journey from below 1600 to above 2100. I was probably around 1700 at the time. Now white's last move was queen to g4, offering the trade of queens. It's understandable why white wants this, because look at the broken pawn structure around the white king. White is facing king safety trouble, and therefore white wants the queen trade. Now after thinking for some time, I decided to go for this because I could see that I would win a pawn with rook takes d5 at the end. I went on to lose, even though I was up a pawn. But that's not really the point. The point is that in the original position, with white's king in so much danger, I should have avoided the queen trade via queen to h6. Now this retreat might look as though it puts the queen on a passive square, but it keeps the long-term threats in place. One threat, for example, is to play f5. And if the knight moves away, well then you could play rook to g5. And we can see why it's a bad idea to have your king so exposed, especially with the queen on g4. So the retreat was correct, trading queens was wrong, and that's the lesson that I really want to impart here. Sometimes you shouldn't be so materialistic. Sometimes the king's safety is the more important thing to look at in a position. Law number 5 is to consider transitions to a favourable endgame. It's black to move here in Middlegame versus Glig, 1926. If we do a material count, we can see that black has 6 pawns, while white has 3 pawns. Additionally, white's king does seem to be quite exposed, and I think the way that a lot of players would continue here with black would be to give this check on b3. Now this forces the white king into the corner, but it's worth noting you don't have time to take this rook because, whoops, that's a checkmate on h8 for white. So that would be embarrassing. That's why in the original position, black looked at this, saw that white's king is in some danger, but so is his own king. And that's why he played queen to h6, offering the queen trade. Now, that's what happened. We got the queen trade, and black gave up one of the extra pawns. But black still has 2 extra pawns and went on to win in this endgame. Now, I'm well aware that this may seem to contradict the last law. In the last law, I said don't trade queens if your opponent has king safety trouble. And in this position, it does look as though white has king safety trouble, but I'm telling you that it's correct for black to go for the queen trade anyway. Well, chess is a complex game, and there's a lot of nuances like this. I think in this particular case, the difference is that the white king is in danger, and so is the black king. That's what makes the difference, and that's why it's correct for black to just go for the endgame and play with the extra 2 pawns. Now, chess is filled with subtleties like this, and if you want my help with understanding these and improving your own play, just a reminder that I do work with players at the below 2000 ELO level, improve their results. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the link in the description below, and we can explore a collaboration. Law 6, hold the tension. This is something that a lot of intermediate level players and even advanced players still get wrong, and I used to get it wrong too, as I'm going to show from another game from quite early in my chess improvement journey, Rose versus Lyle 2022. So it's white to move here, and in this position I played queen takes b6, which fails to adhere to this law, because now after black takes back, black's position has improved. This knight is better on b6 than it was on d7, and the scope of black's light squared bishop is also much improved. So in the original position, with this tension, whichever player initiates the capture is going to improve the other player's position. So let's say that I were to play bishop to e2. Well, if black were to capture, then my rook would improve. So that's why in the original position it's better for both sides to hold the tension. I'd failed to understand that, and because of that, after queen takes b6 and knight takes b6, black's position became much easier to play. So just remember this, whenever you've got this tension where 2 pieces are staring at one another and there's a piece ready to take the place if one of them initiates the capture, then often it's better to just hold that tension. Lesson 7, be aggressive with pawn advances when your position is much better. To illustrate this, we're going to use a position from near the end of the game, Pinter versus Sharaf 1985. So white's got a lot of pressure, particularly on the f-file. If this knight on f6 were ever to move, then white would have queen to f7 check with disastrous results for the black king. So white looked to increase that pressure via e4. The threat is to play e5, so black took on e4, white took back, and then black tried to shore up the defense on the dark squares. But then another aggressive pawn move came from white, d5. Black can't take that one because again, queen to f7 check comes, and at a bare minimum, white is winning a piece here. There's now 2 attackers on the knight on d5. So instead, after d5 was played, black went to a6 with the queen, but then another aggressive pawn advance in the center, d6. Once again, that pawn is untouchable. If black were to take it, then knight takes f6, and white has won a piece and will probably win even more material in short order. After d6, black actually resigned here, but let's just show one possible line because it's interesting to see how the game could have ended. Let's say bishop to d8, well then knight takes f6, and if there's the capture on e1, then you don't take here, but instead you give an intermezzo, using a concept which we explored earlier in the video, this intermezzo check, knight to e8. If the black rook takes it, then once again you've got queen to f7 check, king to h8, then you take the rook, king to g7, and rook to f7 is mate. A good one to finish on, I think. If you enjoyed this video on middle game ideas, then click here to learn all about the endgame. The endgame is the natural follow-on from the middle game, and there's 38 of the most instructive patterns that you need to know in order to play the endgame successfully.